10 most expensive mistakes in history. An error of just 2.2 micrometers cost $1.5 billion when NASA's Hubble telescope failed to observe, or a pump pressure safety valve in an oil and gas field in the North Sea caused a catastrophic explosion, and $3.4 billion in damage, including the loss of 167 lives. Today's episode is about the 10 most significant and costly mistakes in history. Number 10. Piper Alpha. The Piper Alpha oil production platform was established in 1976 in the North Sea, 190 kilometers north of the coast of Scotland. Later, gas extraction started from here. On the night of July 6, 1988, one of the most man-made disasters in history took place. At 12 noon on July 6, the pressure safety valve of one of the platform's two gas condensate pumps was opened for maintenance. A temporary disc cover was installed in that place, but as the work was not completed, the engineers left with the disc cover installed. As the manager in charge of the platform was busy, they left a written instruction in the control room not to start the pump. At 6 p.m. the night shift workers took over, but at 9:45 p.m. the other pumpy on the platform stopped working. In this situation there was no option but to start pump A to keep the platform running. But this instruction not to start pump A was filled in the wrong box in the control room, due to which pump A was started at 9:55 p.m. thinking that everything was fine, and because there was no safety valve, a terrible explosion occurred instantly. Very quickly the fire engulfed the entire platform. Thus the accident killed 167 of the 226 people on the platform, and caused a total loss of $3.4 billion. Number 9. The Walkie-Talkie London. The construction of 20 Fenchurch Street, a 38-story building on London's historic Fenchurch Street, was completed in 2014. Another special feature of this glass-wrapped multi-story building is that it is made in the style of walkie-talkie. That is why it became known as the Walkie-Talkie Building. But within a few days of its inauguration, people realized that this building has become a source of pain. When sunlight hits the glass of the building directly, it acts like a concave mirror. For a couple of hours every day, the south side of the building generates intense heat. Sometimes the temperature around the road goes up to 91 degrees Celsius. The building's infamy spread further when the body wrap of a car parked on the side of the road melted in the heat. For this, the building developer had to pay the fine. And a reporter of a newspaper showed fried eggs only in the reflected light of the sun. The skyscraper damages a lot of things like cars, bicycles, furniture and shops on that street, and because of this skyscraper is also known as Fry Skyscraper. Local authorities built temporary canopies on the streets to escape the tyranny of sunlight reflected from the skyscrapers. And the designer of the building blamed global warming for this and said that the skyscraper was designed thinking about the cloudy weather of London. And the interesting thing is that it cost more than $250 million to build this skyscraper. Number 8. The SNCF trains. France's state railway company SNCF started its journey in 1938, so the experience of this company is not completely empty. But in 2014 SNCF ordered 1860 new trains together with Railway Operator Network RFF, whose market value was $17.5 billion. It was said that the trains would run in 2016, but there was a bit of a mess. The new trains were a little too wide for the country's platforms, being only 20 centimeters wide. The trains could not enter the platform. As a result of this mistake, SNCF was forced to renovate more than 1,300 railway platforms in the country, and for this the company had to pay another $60 million. But an answer to how the company made such a ridiculous mistake can be found from a spokesperson of RFF. He said that by the time the problem was noticed, it was too late. The new trains were bought keeping in mind the design of the platforms built in the last 30 years. But SNCF did not care about the number of train platforms built long ago in the country. Number 7. Hubble Space Telescope. After 2 years of research, testing, labor and time, the world's first and only space telescope, Hubble, is ready to be sent into space. It's sure to be a great opportunity to get a better look at the undiscovered and mysterious universe, as well as take brilliantly clear pictures of the universe and scientists' research. Everyone expected more help. But within a week of placing it in Earth's orbit, NASA researchers were literally at a loss for words when they saw that the images sent from the Space Telescope were nowhere near what they had hoped for. Despite many efforts, the focus of the telescope failed to be sharp. After the experiment, the researchers confirmed that the main mirror of the telescope, whose shape was slightly wrong, was responsible for this. Although this mirror is probably the most precisely made mirror in the world, it is unable to focus properly due to its flange range of only 2.2 micrometers. The mission for which Hubble's telescope was sent into Earth's orbit failed completely after this mistake. Bringing the telescope back to Earth was an impossible task, due to which the name of this project became White Elephant, that is, elephant pet for the poor. But finally the scientists were able to find a solution. 2 sets of new mirrors were made for the telescope and several expeditions were conducted to install them on the Hubble telescope, which is one of the most complicated human space missions so far. Number 6. Lake Peigneur accident. Lake Peigneur in the U.S. state of Louisiana was a freshwater lake until 1980. A lot of people were seen here during the holidays. But just one day it changed completely. On November 20th, 1980, the Wilson Brothers Drilling Company began drilling under Lake Peigneur. Under contract with Texaco, drilling under the lake was looking for oil, and under the lake, there was a salt mining tunnel called Diamond Crystal Company. Due to an error in the coordinate reference system by the drilling company's engineers, the drill blew the roof of the salt mine tunnel. Under the water, the leak gradually enlarges and forms a huge vortex. All the water from the lake began to accumulate inside the mine, and with it the vortex swallowed the entire platform, 11 barges, many trees, and 65 acres of surrounding land. Last but not least, a canal connected to the lake, which has fallen into the nearby Vermilion Bay, began to flow in the opposite direction due to sudden depletion of water, slowly filling the entire lake with salty water and destroying the biodiversity of the lake. In this incident, Texaco and the drilling company Wilson Brothers were forced to pay $32 million to the salt company and $12.8 million to the locals. Number 5. MV Baltic Ace. The monster vessel MV Baltic Ace was built to transport heavy cargo. The construction of this 486 feet long ship was completed on July 11, 2007, and since then it has been used to transport cars from one end of the sea to another end. A terrible accident happened on December 5, 2012. The cargo of the ship was over 1,400 brand new cars, most of which were manufactured by the Japanese company Mitsubishi and were to be sold in the Russian market. But Baltic Ace collided with Corvus J, a Cypriot container ship just 40 to 50 kilometers from the Dutch coast. And in just 15 minutes, the ship loaded with cars sank in the seawater. Corvus J was badly damaged but remained afloat and took part in the rescue of Baltic Ace's survivors. In 2014, efforts to salvage the ship, which sank 35 meters below water, began due to concern that the busy shipping lanes and oil left in the Baltic Ace's tanks could pose a threat to the marine environment. The ship and the cars inside were brought up, but by then the valuable ship, or 1,400 cars, were all turned into junk. Baltic Ace car carrier informed that this accident happened due to crew's mistake. Number 4. Millennium Bridge, London. The construction of the 1,066-foot-long London Millennium Footbridge over the River Thames began in 1999. The construction of the bridge cost $24 million. On June 10, 2000, the bridge was opened to the public, and on that day at least 1 lakh people crossed the Millennium Bridge. But there was a problem when it was seen that the bridge literally started swaying as a result of many people walking together. This happens due to some flaw in the design of the bridge, and the magnitude of this swaying was enough to worry everyone. That is why the authorities had to close the pedestrian crossing just 2 days after the opening of the bridge. Later, the bridge was opened by specifying the number of crossings, and new problems were created due to the long queues of people on both sides of the bridge. But no practical solution to the bridge swing problem was possible. Later, from May 2001 to January 2002, the bridge was renovated, and for this the country had to spend an additional $5 million. Number 3. Alaska sold to US. Alaska wasn't always part of the USA. In fact, it used to belong to Russia. Alexander II didn't think much of Alaska. The harsh weather made it hard to farm, and high transportation costs kept it from being especially profitable as a trading port. He sold the colony to the US for $7.2 million in 1867. Few Russians had explored the land's interior up until that point, otherwise, they would have noticed what a huge mistake the sale was. The United States clearly got away with robbery during negotiations. Alaska is rich in natural resources like oil and gold. A century and 20 years later, economists estimate Alaska's oil and gas reserves alone are worth $200 billion. Number 2. S-80 Plus submarine. The S-80 Plus submarine could be the pride of the Spanish Navy. But in 2013, when the construction work of the submarine was completed, those concerned noticed that the submarine was not only monstrous in size, but its weight was also unexpected. It weighed 68 tons more than the engineers had estimated, making it unable to float safely on water. But as a lot of money has been invested in this project, the construction company again entered the field with the design of the under-construction S-80 Plus submarine. The painstaking process of equalizing the weight by increasing the length of the submarine's hull began. Currently, the length of the submarine has increased to 81 meters, and the Spanish government has to pay $18 million for this work. Later, a former Spanish government official said that such a mistake had occurred during the design when a decimal was read in the wrong place. Very recently, it has been known that after the modification, the length of the submarine has increased, and it has become more than the length of the dock, due to which it is not possible to dock the submarine. It is expected that this submarine, built at a cost of $1.5 billion, will be added to the Spanish Navy very soon. Number 1. Man throws away 7,500 bitcoins in 2009. In 2009, few saw the way cryptocurrency would take off in the coming years. Unfortunately for James Howell, he was not one of the few blessed with the foresight. Shortly after acquiring 7,500 bitcoins when they were worth very little, Mr. Howell spilled coffee on his computer. He salvaged and sold most of the parts and got all the information he thought he'd need off of the hard drive. The hard drive sat in his drawer for years before he threw it away during a move. When he realized his mistake, and after seeing the way Bitcoin had taken off, he began searching for the lost hard drive in the city dump. To make matters worse, the Newport City Council barred him from continuing the search due to concerns about the environmental impact of disturbing potentially hazardous waste. Bitcoin peaked when it hit $19,783 in December 2017. This means that Howell essentially threw away $148 million. To see another videos just like this one, just hit subscribe and like button now. Thanks for watching.